we're talking about executive functions right now and how we can help. One area of executive functions is helping our kids with flexibility issues. Executive functions are the kinds of things, when we put them all together, I sort of think of it as the missing puzzle piece. You know, we so often in autism, we talk about what's the missing puzzle piece. And executive functions, I think, is where all the puzzle pieces come together, because it's learning everything that we need to do to follow a goal from the first moment to completion, and then celebrating that goal. Now, that goal could be something small, like being able to go get up in the morning and brush your teeth and have your teeth really be clean, which is not really a small thing if we stop and think about it, or a long-term goal like being able to finish high school and go to college. So goals can be absolutely anything, and we can work on these kinds of goals with any age child. With a very small child, it could be something as simple as building a stack of blocks to a certain height. But we want to help our kids to be able to figure out all the things that they need to do along the way to achieve a goal. And one of the things that we have to do to be able to achieve a goal is be flexible. Because stop and think about it. In your day, how many times have you said, okay, well, as an autism parent, I'm just laughing because, boy, this flexibility is the name of the game for us, right? So you said to yourself, okay, well, so today, you know, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. We're going to go to the grocery store. We're going to have therapy. We're going to do this, and we're going to clean the living room. And then stuff happens, right? The phone rings, and there's an urgent thing, or your child is having a bad day, and you have to adapt what your plan was to what's happening so that you can still get through the day, and maybe some of the stuff that you planned to do got done and some of it didn't. Well, did the goal go away? No. The living room still needs to be cleaned. You still need to do some therapy with your child, and you still need to get to the grocery store. So you have to adjust and say, well, you know, it's going to have to run over in tomorrow. I'm going to have to expand my timeline. The living room isn't going to be cleaned by 4 o'clock today. It's going to be cleaned by 4 o'clock tomorrow. We have to have that level of flexibility to go on, to succeed. Well, how do we give that to our kids? How do we work? Because our kids, as much as we have to be flexible, our kids have that much difficulty sometimes being flexible. It's part of the diagnosis that the possibility that they have rigid routines that they have to adhere to. And if they don't, there's a level of anxiety that can prevent them from getting anything else done and can prevent you from getting anything else done. So how do we work on flexibility? Well, we've got some suggestions for you here. First of all, work slowly. I mean, like molasses in January going uphill slowly. It's not a race, a foot race to see how quickly we can get there. It's amazing to me how I'm always like, rush, rush, rush. How quick can we do something? But sometimes when we just take and do itty bitty little steps, we get there so much faster than if we try to breeze through things. So work incredibly slowly, itty bitty 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 steps. We have to stay emotionally neutral. If the child is having anxiety about something, let's say that your child is absolutely rigid about a routine in the morning, maybe the way in which you drive them to school, and they have anxiety about that happening. Well, when we're ready to work on that, we would do it really slowly. We wouldn't just decide, okay, today we're going to drive in a completely different way and we're not going any of the same way. In fact, we're going to come out of the driveway and go the opposite direction and go miles out of our way to get to the school and just throw them into the deep end of the pool. And what's going to happen? The child is going to have some big anxiety, and then we get into that mode. Maybe you don't, but I do, with it. Why are you getting so upset? It's not that big of a deal, right? Not staying emotionally neutral. So we need to stay emotionally neutral. But if this is the biggest rigidity issue that we have, it's probably not the thing to start with. We want to start with little rigidity issues. You know, my son didn't have a lot of rigidity issues, but the ones he had, redhead were huge. You know what I'm saying? And one of the different things that we saw was that when my son would play the Cootie Game, and this is, therapists would come to the house and play games with him, and we would work on taking turns, and he would be great with all kinds of games, but we would get to Cootie, and he would have to build the Cootie that was exactly like the one on the box. It had the red head, and it had the red body, and it had the sneaker shoes on it, and it had to be that way, or there was a meltdown. Big deal. So we started working on his rigidity issues with other games. If there was something where he had a preference for it to be some way, we would say, oh, well, we need to do it this way. And he would have some issues, and we would give him a chance to language it and see that he was going to survive, and we would stay emotionally neutral, right? Then when we went to finally slowly work on the Cootie Game to have it be something different, we made sure we were ready, that everybody was emotionally ready to work on that, and we did it in a small way. So maybe all of the legs got to be what they were, but the tail was slightly different. It was the red body, the red head, but the tail was slightly different. And there were some tears about it, and it was okay, and everybody stayed neutral, and it was all right, because he was saying to himself, you know, all right, well, the rest of it is okay, so it wasn't the hugest meltdown we'd ever had. There was still a reaction, right? Because rigidity is rigidity. But over time, you know, so the tail, and we did that over and over and over again, where it was the tail or one eye that was different, or the nose, the really peripheral things, until finally there was one day when one of us won the red head, so he couldn't have the red head. And he had a reaction, but we went slowly. And you give them tools about, say what you're feeling, and talk about what's really happening, and then going through the process, not allowing them to escape that feeling, going through the process, and when it's over, reinforcing them. You did such a good job with the fact that I know you wanted the redhead, but you did such a good job. And because you did such a good job, here's what we're going to do. Reinforcing it, that you survived it, not saying don't have those feelings, but giving them some real life tools to understand that even though I have those feelings and it didn't go the way I wanted it to, I'm okay. And we build on that and build on that and build on that to the point where, you know, we don't play Cootie anymore. It's not the cool thing you do when you're 9. But I know that if we did play Cootie, he could have a green body with a blue head and we would be okay. And the sneakers could be with somebody else. It would not be a problem. So take it slowly. Take it slowly, stay emotionally neutral because they're going to have their feelings about them. Let them have their feelings about it, but we have to stay neutral. These things are workable. We'll get through it. And it gives them a lesson that they don't have to get upset. Stay working on that slowly, and don't start with the huge issues. Start with the smaller things. And even when you get to the bigger things, start small. If you're working on going to the school in a different way, pull out of the driveway and go the regular way, and give them conversation about it beforehand. Say, you know, today we have to stop by somebody's house on the way there and have something reinforcing there. So they're going to have some anxiety, but they get to the house, it's okay, and they get some reinforcement for it. And then the next day, maybe you can go that way again, and it's not as big of a deal. So that you're slowly creating a world in which your child sees, okay, if this starts to happen, I'm gonna have these feelings, but it's gonna be okay. It gives them a context. We can and should work on flexibility with our kids.